Have you heard that Sierra Leone has chosen to work with Russia to build nuclear power facilities just like Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso? However, why is it so crucial? The First Lady of Sierra Leone did a great job of explaining it. Why don't African nations produce consumable goods using their natural resources and raw materials? Why do they simply import pricey products made from those raw materials from the West and export the raw materials at low prices? At least on the surface, that question has persisted in Africa ever since the colonists left. The reason for this is that energy needed to power industries that create consumable goods has been denied to African nations. However, Sierra Leone has now made the decision to turn to Russia, just like Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso did. To supply industries with energy, nuclear power plants will be built. But what are the ambitious plans that have caused a stir? In this video, let's learn about that. So what has Sierra Leone done under the surface that has caused shockwaves? Well, the simple answer is that Russia is getting into the roots of Africa, offering benefits that the West could not offer despite staying for centuries. Plans for possible cooperation between Moscow and Sierra Leone in the area of peaceful nuclear energy were recently announced by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Furthermore, it indicates a serious situation when nuclear energy is the main topic of conversation. Discussions regarding the potential construction of a nuclear power plant in Sierra Leone are part of this. These plans were revealed by Lavrov at a press conference in Moscow following his meeting with Timothy Musa Kaba, the counterpart of Sierra Leone. During the conference, Lavrov mentioned that further talks would be conducted to explore additional investment opportunities for Russian investors in various sectors. He particularly highlighted the potential for collaboration in nuclear energy, extending beyond just the energy sector itself. And that's quite concerning for the West. Going beyond the energy sector when regarding nuclear energy means nuclear weapons, something the West cannot tolerate, but it has to this time. Additionally, Lavrov disclosed intentions to reopen the Russian embassy in Sierra Leone by the end of the year. He stressed that all necessary arrangements had been finalized, demonstrating a commitment to strengthening diplomatic relations between the two nations. Kaba, Sierra Leone's foreign minister, echoed Lavrov's sentiments, emphasizing the significance of reopening the embassy after 32 years. He emphasized the potential for enhancing trust between Russian and Sierra Leonean businesses, anticipating positive outcomes for bilateral relations. You should know that several West African nations, Sierra Leone included, have entered into agreements with Russia's Rosatom state corporation to explore the possibility of constructing nuclear power plants. Sierra Leone aims to develop additional proposals for Russian investors, particularly in the nuclear power engineering sector and other non-energy applications of nuclear power, requiring further interdepartmental examination. Discussions between Lavrov and Kaba also encompassed broader issues related to sustainable development and multifaceted Russia-Africa cooperation. With Sierra Leone's strategic coastal position, Russia's interest in bolstering its access to the Atlantic Ocean is evident. Sierra Leone is becoming seen as a trusted partner for Russia and Africa, with both states partnering in international forums to campaign for justice and democracy on the world arena. But why is all that making the West nervous? Well, whenever someone talks about Russia in front of the West begins sweating, and for good reason. The whole of the West combined does not even come close to Russia when the question is about power and influence. Even although Russia was battling with the West in various regions of the world, Africa was the continent where the West retained absolute influence. But now, it has altered totally. In the midst of intensifying conversations over prospective nuclear penalties against Russia, the state-owned energy giant Rosatom is actively investigating fresh opportunities in Africa. At the recent African Energy Conference in Cape Town, Ryan Collier, Rosatom's chief executive for Central and Southern Africa, pushed South Africa to continue forward with its nuclear program, highlighting the necessity of ensuring stable, affordable, and environmentally friendly power. This call found resonance with South Africa's Energy Minister, Ibrahim Traore, who underlined the critical importance of nuclear energy in addressing the country's recurrent electricity shortages. Despite nuclear power presently contributing around 10% of worldwide electricity generation, Africa features only one nuclear power reactor, the Coburg plant in Cape Town. Nevertheless, numerous African nations, including Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, have lately disclosed plans to establish nuclear power facilities. Capitalizing on possible economic possibilities amid Western sanctions, Russia has committed its help to African countries with dreams for nuclear energy. This becomes a win-win chance for Africa and Russia. Sierra Leone's First Lady stated that the current president believes now is the best time for Sierra Leone to pursue growth independently, without relying on external assistance. She emphasized that the country does not need others dictating its needs or how it should be governed. The First Lady also remarked that Sierra Leone would not be swayed by global power struggles, saying the nation would not avoid visiting a country due to its proximity to China or America. She highlighted that the conflicts involving China, Russia, Europe, America, and England are not issues Sierra Leone needs to adopt, as the country faces its own challenges focused on daily survival and improvement in essential areas. Like the US, Sierra Leone seeks to strengthen its educational system, and like Europe, it aspires to provide high-quality healthcare for its citizens. The fact that Russia's interests coincide with Africa's on this issue is very unexpected. Russia does not want Africa to join its war or pick a side. All it wants is for Africa to understand who is using it and who is taking advantage of it. In order to industrialize and boost its economy, Sierra Leone now needs energy. It's because energy powers industries. Western companies, meanwhile, are Sierra Leone's largest energy suppliers, taking full advantage of the situation and failing to supply enough energy for enterprises. Pay attention to what Sierra Leone's First Lady stated. Sierra Leone's First Lady expressed frustration over the state of basic infrastructure and resources in the country, which she claimed was still under British control, particularly when it came to electricity from the Burkina region. She highlighted ongoing issues with inadequate electricity supply, noting that without it, discussing advancements in education, healthcare, and infrastructure was almost impossible. She further questioned the quality and availability of essential services, such as clean, pipe-borne water necessary for children's health, saying that these facilities were largely inaccessible. The First Lady also criticized restrictions placed on Sierra Leone's mineral wealth, claiming that before her husband's presidency, Sierra Leone was benefiting from its resources at a rate of just 0.1%, which she argued was unacceptably low. Russia then enters the picture. During a meeting of the Russian parliament, Rosatom's Director General, Alexei Likachev, reiterated that the company saw Africa as a potential market for nuclear technology. During the Atomexpo Energy Conference in Sochi, Rosatom recently reaffirmed its commitment to African nuclear energy projects by signing cooperation agreements with Algeria, Burkina Faso, and Mali. These accords expand on previous pledges, such as the October announcement of Rosatom's plan to build a nuclear power plant in Burkina Faso. Furthermore, at Egypt's El Daba nuclear power station, one of the biggest nuclear construction projects in the world, work has begun on the fourth reactor. By doing this, Russia is helping African nations become self-sufficient in their production, which benefits Russia in turn. Russia is rapidly growing its presence in African markets despite mounting calls to censure Rosatom over Putin's actions in Ukraine. In order to prevent unintentionally contributing to Putin's military activities, Belgian Prime Minister Alexander De Croo recently called on the EU to quickly decrease its reliance on Russian nuclear fuel. Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by leaving a comment in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Let's proceed. However, why is Sierra Leone abruptly joining Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso in their tilt toward Russia? Fatima Madabayo, the First Lady of Sierra Leone, responded to that extremely effectively. The First Lady noted that the nation's abundant mineral resources could adequately support its population. She expressed regret that Sierra Leoneans lack the autonomy to decide how to manage these resources, as external forces ultimately control such decisions. According to her, when Sierra Leonean leaders oppose these external pressures and refuse compliance, Big Brother often resorts to undermining the government by aligning with opposition forces or by fostering unnecessary instability within the country, ultimately obstructing the government's ability to lead effectively. The small West African country of Sierra Leone, home to about 8 million people, is endowed with a wealth of natural resources, including bauxite, gold, diamonds, and iron ore, all of which have enormous economic potential. But the picture presented by reality is different. Sierra Leone has had difficulty converting its abundant natural resources into real advantages for its citizens. Its inability to manage its own resources is a significant obstacle. Sierra Leoneans have limited control over their own destiny, since external parties frequently decide how to use and manage these resources. There are significant ramifications for the nation's development trajectory from this lack of control. In Sierra Leone's resource management, the concept of a Big Brother character is important. This is used to describe strong outside interests that have an impact on national affairs, frequently at the expense of the populace. Whether via political scheming, economic pressure, or clandestine means, there is little opportunity for genuine self-determination because of these external factors that define the parameters and create the story. Sierra Leone encounters opposition when it attempts to assert its sovereignty or question the status quo. To keep control of the nation's resources and prevent change, external parties employ a variety of strategies. Supporting opposition organizations, inciting disturbance, or employing financial pressure to compel compliance are a few examples of this. The capacity of Sierra Leone to exercise self-governance and achieve its own development objectives is compromised by these acts. This imbalance has significant and far-reaching effects. It keeps the majority of Sierra Leoneans disenfranchised and in poverty by sustaining a cycle of underdevelopment and dependency. Even with its abundance of minerals, many people still lack access to essential utilities like clean water, power, and healthcare. Infrastructural deficiencies not only impede human progress, but also inhibits opportunity and economic growth. The issue is made worse by foreign ownership of Sierra Leone's mining industry. Every mining firm in the nation is owned by foreigners, as Fatima points out. This indicates that local communities in Sierra Leone receive very little of the revenues made by the country's resources. As a result, the exploitation of Sierra Leone's own resources yields little benefit to its citizens. Sierra Leone's First Lady stated that a corporation could donate as little as $10,000 to the country after extracting up to $100 million in minerals, questioning the impact of such a small amount on the nation's healthcare and education systems. She expressed that these types of practices hinder Africa's development, as Africans lack a significant voice on such matters. She further reflected on the irony of celebrating independence while lacking true freedom. Clarifying that her comments were personal, she emphasized that she was speaking as a concerned citizen, not as a representative of her husband, president, or the Sierra Leonean government, and that she believed change was essential. In light of these difficulties, Sierra Leone may have an alternative in Russia's offer of infrastructure development. Russia prioritizes collaboration over exploitation, in contrast to its conventional Western allies. Sierra Leone's economic potential could be unlocked, and its need on international aid could be lessened with this offer. However, what is about to happen that will essentially shut down all Western access to Africa? Western nations have had significant impact over Africa's wealth throughout history, frequently taking advantage of them for personal benefit. Collaboration with leaders who were purportedly democratically elected but often owed their positions to backing from Western countries allowed for this abuse. Even though they claimed to speak for their people, these leaders frequently put the needs of their Western backers first, which allowed Africa's natural resources to be exploited indefinitely. But occasionally, African leaders stood up and dared to question Western dominance. Such deviations from the norm were typified by individuals such as Muammar Gaddafi of Libya and Thomas Sankara of Burkina Faso. These leaders actively opposed Western interests by pursuing policies that promoted African unity, economic independence, and self-sufficiency. Known for taking a bold stance, Thomas Sankara led initiatives to transform Burkina Faso's society and economy. He put policies into place to lessen dependency on outside assistance, encourage independence, bravely oppose imperialism, and promote an Africa free from outside domination. Similar to this, Muammar Gaddafi's rule in Libya directly opposed Western hegemony by promoting economic independence, especially in the oil industry, and Pan-African unity. Western nations responded to leaders like Sankara and Gaddafi by using a variety of strategies to weaken and remove them from office. These strategies included economic penalties, direct military engagement in certain situations, and clandestine backing for opposition groups. Protecting Western interests and maintaining control over Africa's resources were the goals of these acts. Looking ahead to the present, Africa's geopolitical environment is changing. Although military regimes now control some countries, Sierra Leone boasts leadership that was chosen democratically. Western nations are concerned about Sierra Leone's recent shift toward Russia and distance from the West, notwithstanding its democratic credentials. The strategic reorientation of Sierra Leone directly challenges Western dominance. An alternative to depending on Western aid is provided by the attraction of Russian investment and cooperation, especially in the areas of resource extraction and infrastructure development. This change could weaken Western dominance in the region and add a new dimension to African geopolitics. Western governments are concerned that other African countries would be influenced to follow Sierra Leone's lead. Western dominance over Africa's resources may be weakened if additional nations choose to form alliances with Russia. In contrast to the paternalistic style frequently associated with the West, Russian involvement places an emphasis on respect for sovereignty and mutual benefit. It is already becoming more widely acknowledged by seasoned American policymakers that Western power in Africa is waning. A gap has unintentionally formed as a result of the Western world's struggles with several internal issues and international conflicts, enabling other powerful nations like China and Russia to increase their influence on the African continent. Africa's geopolitical landscape is already changing as a result of this evolving dynamic. The distractions in the West are giving China and Russia a chance to expand their engagement with Africa. China and Russia are proposing an alternative strategy based on sincere mutual collaboration, in contrast to the West, which has frequently used exploitative tactics to further its interests on the continent. They see the enormous potential of Africa and know that building just and equitable alliances may benefit all sides politically, strategically, and economically. The willingness of China and Russia to interact with Africa on its own terms lies at the heart of their ally. They pledge to promote development that genuinely benefits African countries rather than just advancing their own interests, acknowledging the continent's wealth of natural resources and significant economic potential. China and Russia are winning the trust and cooperation of African governments and people by upholding the values of respect for one another, non-interference, and win-win cooperation. In addition, China and Russia are presenting themselves as strong contenders to replace the exploitative methods that the West has traditionally used in Africa. They agree that unjust exploitation of Africa for personal benefit is unnecessary. Instead, they think they can unlock Africa's potential and further their own political, geopolitical, and economic objectives by upholding open and advantageous partnerships. These alliances with Russia and China present Africa with important chances for development and progress. In order to promote sustainable development throughout the continent, they offer access to vital investment, technological transfer, and infrastructure development. African countries can also increase their control over their destinies and decrease their reliance on the West by expanding their foreign alliances. This paradigm shift offers both opportunity and problems for seasoned US officials. It necessitates acknowledging the changing geopolitical landscape and reevaluating conventional approaches to Africa. Even though the West may not have as much power as it once did, positive interaction and cooperation with African countries based on common interests and values are still possible. Now that Sierra Leone has become closer to Russia and is prepared to let it establish nuclear power plants and an embassy for the West, the message is plain. Julius Maada Bio and other democratically elected presidents will eventually change their policies and recognize that they do not require the West to maintain their hold on power. Observing nations such as Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali teaches them that the only way to gain sustained support is to work for the benefit of their citizens. They avoid having to give up their allegiance and the nation's natural resources in this way. Rather, it will enough for them to fulfill their obligations. There are already feelings throughout Africa that military commanders will overthrow African politicians if they do not change and continue to be puppets of the West. They have two options. Either they labor for the good of their nation or someone else will take their position. What are your thoughts? Can Africa rely on Russia as a partner to supply locally produced energy to power its industries? Is it accurate to say that after the energy issue is resolved, there will be great infrastructural improvements in Africa? Or will all African countries also require fearless leaders to do so? Do you think more African countries will follow the example of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger? Tell us what you think in the comments section below. We explore the rich history, culture, and the ongoing struggle for sovereignty in Africa. Join us in this important conversation by subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just staying informed, you're becoming part of a movement dedicated to reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's work together to spread knowledge and inspire change. Thanks for watching.